Cole Crowley here at Comic-Con, and today we're going to ask a couple questions about science. So, what is your favorite branch of science?
The thing is, I was actually in school, I was terrible at all things science. I like science, I just suck at it. So, I guess I don't really have a favorite.
Well, that's okay. No one sucks at science. It's okay.
I like watching smarter people than me do things in science.
You had involvement in the Tesla Center. Can you tell us a little bit about your involvement?
Yeah, basically I was just kind of the guy that kicked the campaign in the ass and tried to raise money to save the property. I wrote a comic about Nikola Tesla because I thought he was a brilliant engineer and an inventor, and he did all these wonderful things, and he was kind of a geek at heart, and he suffered to the very end. So I built him up as a hero, and then coincidentally the property went up for sale, so I jumped in and thought, let's see if we can raise some money for this thing and actually preserve the land.
Science Appeal, the company that we work for, is trying to open up a brains museum. Would you be interested in ever attending a museum that was all about brains and interactive?
Yeah, that would be awesome. We have actual brains there?
It's going to be model brains and then interactive games and simulations.
You guys should do like the Halloween bowl where you blindfold and you stick your hands in the brains, but it's like Jello or pudding or something.
That'd be awesome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your book?
It's called How to Tell If Your Cat's Plotting to Kill You. It's a bunch of cat comics. Cats are kind of awful and murderous and evil, so I thought it was a good source of comedy. It's #1 on Amazon, which is very cool. Beating out 50 Shades of Grey and beating out Bill O'Reilly. So I was very excited about that.
Do you have a cat?
No. No.
They are evil.
I used to have lots of cats. We had 17 cats growing up, and I had to clean the litter box for 13 years. So I'm kind of good on the cat front right now.
Are you enjoying your time at Comic-Con so far?
Yeah, it's been good. It's busy, you know, and it's it just got started, so I'm not completely brain dead yet. I'm half there. That's why I can't actually think of a field of science to tell you is my favorite, because I'm very, yeah.
What is your favorite branch of science?
Have to be forensic science.
Why?
Because I'm a mortician, and that's what I do for a living, and it's what I'm good at.
Can you tell us a little bit about your company?
Sure. My company is Dark Mass. I sell 2-foot animated zombies, but next year we're going to be making 2 more. So this is just my first 2, and I plan on carrying Halloween line items.
Very cool. Are you having fun at Comic-Con?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's kind of mellow today, because I think it's all VIPs.
Comic-Con with
What's up, everybody?
a celebrity of Hound Comics.
Oh, please, come on, I just work there. Don't even. I do love it, though. Yeah.
And he's wearing his,
This is my Scuddy, Electric Graffiti. Check it out, see? It's one of my companies. I'm a glover. You bet you didn't know that about me.
pretty fancy. What is your favorite branch of science?
Real quick, should I be talking into this device or should I look at you?
Doesn't matter, it looks the same.
Okay, sure. My favorite branch of science. I guess I would say biology, right? Nature?
I'm in biology.
Yeah. So anything that's organic is quite fascinating. Anything that comes from the earth.
Why do you think science is important?
Why do I think it's important? I think it provides a lot of answers for the foundations of the existence of, I'm trying to sound intelligent here, and of like all sorts of things, you know. I guess, you know, you can look at the, like this, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, what's this made out of? It's actually made out of, you know, polyfoam, an expanding product, which is very scientific in nature.
Are you enjoying Comic-Con this year?
Oh yeah, I'm having a total thrilling time. So, I came here to seek some thrills, and I've succeeded in such, right?
Can you tell us a little bit about your work?
Okay, my work is all done by myself, you know, hence the name Tales of Isolation. It's these 2 lonely hands have put themselves to work after, of course, you know, I used to have a TV show, the Mr. Oz Show, and it was a cool show, had cast members and a crew and all that stuff. And then, of course, the, you know, TV network came in and they were just like, all right, your show's done, they cancel it. I had nowhere else to go. So I decided to, you know, task myself with producing unlimited amounts of stop-motion animation. And these are the results of all my endless hours of loneliness. You know, because so many people are like, wow, stop-motion animation, claymation, that must take so much patience. I was like, sure. I consider it, you know, being lonely. It's like, you know, not having a boost in social life will actually enhance your mind to the point where you're like, you know, I don't need to hire a cast of people because these are like the perfect crew members right here. You know, they're always on set on time. They never talk back. They do exactly what you need them to do. You know, and yeah, so that's my work. I'm a claymation artist, and as well as a writer, director, and an ex-comedy TV show host.
What is your favorite branch of science?
Favorite branch of science? That's a tough question because I'm thinking applied mathematics. No, it's theoretical physics.
Pretty good. Why is that your favorite branch?
Because it's actually really, really hard. I did engineering, a master's in engineering, and when you get to theoretical physics, some of the concepts you understand for a few seconds, and then you lose it, and then you understand it again. And that type of education intelligence to me is one of the highest forms.
Okay. What is your favorite branch of science?
Can I say psychology? I really like studying behavior. Psych minor.
Radioactive spider bites. Kryptonite. Rings that can create anything. And the super soldier serum. Yes, this is the world of comics.
What do you think came first, science or science fiction?
Oh, I think science fiction. Yeah.
What do you think came first, science or science fiction?
You know, I would say probably science fiction came first, and once you sort of understood that, I mean, you look at a lot of like the mythology and stuff like that, the different like Greek mythology, for example, the different like pantheons of different gods that were responsible for different things, and how that's changed over time. You know, sort of, you know, emphasizes how science fiction came first. And I mean, we're still learning things every day. You know.
What do you think came first, science or science fiction?
Science fiction, 100%. Because, I mean, Arthur C. Clarke, for example, he theorized the use of satellites, and then this became reality within 20 years after he proposed them. Ideas that were forward in Star Trek became reality, even something silly like sliding doors. Science fiction always goes for science, and I think it was again Arthur C. Clarke who said that any civilization is sufficiently advanced, technology looks like magic to us.
Who are you guys today, and why did you dress up like this?
I'm Data from Star Trek Next Generation. He's Captain Picard.
And I'm Wesley Crusher.
What branch of science does Star Trek most relate to?
Pardon me?
What branch of science does Star Trek most relate to?
Star Trek?
Yeah. I do not think so.
You don't know about Star Trek either? We don't know anything about Star Trek.
Is this Star Trek? We thought it was Star Wars.
Actually, no.
I'm kidding.
No, actually there's a convention for Trekkies, for Star Treks.
Okay.
But
We got lost in the way.
You probably won't see anyone else dressed as Star Trek because it's not a comic, it's a series and a movie. But we love comics, and that's what we wanted to be.
What about science?
Oh,
That's
science,
what she wants to
science,
know about.
science.
Yeah.
Warp speed.
He's in high school, so he can tell you.
Yes.
What branch of science?
Like
Physics.
yeah, it's their engineering.
I have to say science, probably science fiction in my heart. I mean, because I'm a science fiction fan, but you know, you have to dream of things to want to figure out how things work, I think. So I think that imagination is what's most important.
What do you think came first, science or science fiction?
Well, I guess technically science fiction. People were sort of pondering things before they had an answer.
Who are you dressed as today, and what's your superpower?
I am dressed as Clark Kent, transforming into Superman.
What branch of science do you think Superman most relates to?
Branch of science?
Yeah.
Biology?
Good answer. What do you think came first, science or science fiction?
You try that one, I don't know.
Science fiction. I guess.
Is there a correct answer?
There's not a correct answer. Whatever your opinion.
Science fiction.
Okay. What do you guys think came first, science or science fiction?
We like both. I mean, they really relate together.
Came first. I don't know. Hard question.
Probably came
around the same time, I would say. Yeah, well, maybe. Any kind of science fiction about science, I guess. Well, science came first because science fiction came from math. So, you know.
And what do you think came first, science or science fiction?
Science fiction.
Ever wonder how robotics got started? Jennifer Pulley from NASA Connects has more.
You may think of a robot as a mechanical creature that walks around. But did you know that the first person to use the word robot wasn't a scientist at all? In fact, it was a Czechoslovakian writer named Karel Čapek. In Czech, the word robota means forced labor. Now, in his play, Rossum's Universal Robots, Čapek used the word to describe electronic servants who turn on their masters when given emotions.
With the swiftness of a deadly cosmic ray, the Earth is invaded by indestructible moon monsters. Their ghastly mission, death for all humans. What astounding technical developments are being made to protect mankind? Robot Monster brings you an actual preview of the devastating forces of our future. Unsuspected revelations of incredible horrors that will terrify you with their brutal reality.
There is no escape from me. Fool humans, there is no escape.
Oh, that's Jeannie, my wife. Hello there.
Coming, sir. Here I am, sir. Yes, sir.
The old girl's still eager, isn't she? Outer space.
Here we go gathering nuts in May on a cold and frosty morn.
I came here to give you these facts. But if you threaten to extend your violence, this earth of yours will be reduced to a burned-out cinder.
How do you relate to science?
How do we relate to science? Well, you know, in our stories we use a lot of actual science, and we basically butcher it and warp it into something else that we can use to tell our stories with.
Think Space is a science fiction novel that deals in the year 2095. Earth is in severe ecological decline because of the Third World War, as well as pollution and just everyday neglect. And we find the need within a century to find a new homeworld for our planet, for our kind, because Earth will no longer be able to sustain life. And we actually do come across a planet filled with pyramids similar to those of Egypt, as well as odd-looking beings, and there's a lot of twists and turns along the way, but we do meet the Greys eventually, who explain that they're the caretakers of that race, as well as us, and explain about our past, as well as what's in our store for our future. And I'm not a fan of predictable endings, but you could definitely expect a lot of twists and turns, and really good book. It was.
How does your comic relate to science? Like what branch?
I would actually have to say it's speculative, some of it, but I deal a lot with Earth's environment, and the problems actually that we're having now are somewhat in the book. One of the characters is reading an article, tsunami hits Taipei, and that was before, unfortunately, the tsunami hit Japan. So I'm trying to raise awareness about Earth's environment and teach mankind, let's take care of our planet before it comes too late.
My comic is about fairy tale characters. They go to high school together and living in modern suburbia. It's very funny. It's ages 9 and up. There's nothing obscene or bad about it. It's just a funny strip.
How does your comic relate to science?
Because they're in high school together, they are sometimes in science classes. I actually have a storyline that runs where the Frog Prince and Rapunzel are paired together to do a science project. And of course, he's in love with Rapunzel and she doesn't like him. So she's, it's crazy hijinks. It's funny.
Teenage drama.
Teenage drama, right.
I'm Supergirl, and I fly, and I have superpowers. I can do X-ray vision. I can burn people's. If I get mad at them, I'll burn them up and stuff. But I love flying.
What branch of science does it most relate to?
I'd have to say aerodynamics because of the flying mostly.
The book is called Gray. It's a part sci-fi, part horror story about a New York City cop who moves to the country and just may have a family trouble.
What branch of science do you think it most relates to?
UFOlogy, which is a real thing. I believe it may even be pronounced ufology, but it's the science vehicles.
How do you guys relate to science?
We're scientists. Well, I'm a scientist. He's an attorney. I'm sorry, I mean an accountant.
I'm a key master.
So, as a paranormal scientist, we invented these proton packs, PK emitters for detecting supernatural activity and for trapping and capturing ghosts that are otherwise harmful to the citizens of New York City. We're the Ghostbusters.
What branch of science does it most relate to?
With Z-Girl, it relates to, because of zombies, it relates to biology, a lot of physics, metaphysics as well. For the other books, there are physics is the big one, especially with anytime you're dealing with a hitman story. If you've ever seen any great stuntman, movie with lots of stunts and stuff, that's what Dead Man's Party is filled with. Also, I would say with books like Wendover or Z-Girl, when you're dealing with monsters, you're also dealing with cryptozoology and more esoteric kind of Middle East and Eastern religions. Obviously we play in the realm of science fiction a lot. However, being the writer, I try to make sure that everything that I have is grounded in science somehow. Weapons that I use in my books, they're actual weapons that are out there. The Z-Girl and the Four Tigers has everything from modern warfare to weapons to mythology to actual locations. In fact, the first issue takes place in Angkor Wat, which is a mythological temple, or a temple in Cambodia that has a lot of mythological history behind it. So I try to make sure I got a lot of, as I like to say, verisimilitude in all of the books that I write.
We run a horror magazine. It's mostly interviews, articles, upcoming movies, pretty much anything you can think of.
How does your comics relate to science?
Oh, well, I mean, it's very science fiction driven. There's a lot of different aspects to it that you'll see as it goes on. Like the first issue is very introductory. I had to take the time to introduce all the characters and introduce the villains and the different conflicts. So, as you progress, you sort of see I go into the different characters, different powers, and all their powers are, very sci-fi, magnetism, phasing through objects, and Justin's laser manipulation, and things like that. And as it continues, the story is going to delve even further into that with, government involvement, trying to figure out how they can be used in certain ways. So.
My name is Murder Boy, and I'm representing the Vampire Priest group.
What branch of science would you think that is most interesting to you?
Probably physics.
Who are you today?
The Captain America.
And how does he relate to science?
Science? Well, he was experimented on to get his powers. He had to go against the enemy forces, the Nazis and stuff like that were also involved in sciences and stuff like that. So he was kind of in the middle of a science war. So that was pretty.
How does your comic relate to science?
Wow. Well, you want to take that, Lush?
What was it?
See, you didn't meet Luscious over here.
How are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
How are you? What was the question now? I heard science.
How does your comic relate to science?
It depends on if you go in the metaphysical realm or even just general science. Because a good chunk of the story takes place in what we call the other side of your passion. You know how there's science always trying to connect that. But then there's also a good chunk of it happening on Earth. So I mean, as far as science, I guess there's science connecting it, how we get back and forth from the regular world to the other side. But then there's also weapons from the other side.
There's a lot of really cool things. I don't want to give too much away.
I'm a teaching professor in the physics department, and I've been here at Carnegie Mellon since 1980. Well, it focuses mainly on understanding the science in science fiction films and television shows. So we do some readings on cutting-edge science and then look at some science fiction film examples that relate to it and try to critique the science fiction films from a scientific point of view. And it was inspired by, actually, this book, which I'm sure you've heard of. This is the first edition, and Physics of Star Trek, written by Lawrence Krauss. Susan Henry was the dean of the Mellon College of Science at the time and encouraged a lot of the faculty to create mini courses for MCS students to keep them interested in science. And I proposed a course on science and science fiction, and everybody thought it was a great idea. But they suggested one of the things we had to do was to build a warp drive as part of the coursework, which we haven't succeeded in doing.
Whether it's the Starship Enterprise or the space station from 2001, A Space Odyssey, science fiction has always provided inspiration to scientists and engineers that build and design real spacecraft. Satellites, space stations, men on the moon, they were all once science fiction but are now science fact.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
A lot of space scientists are actually science fiction writers. The famous German rocket scientist Wernher von Braun was the man behind the Apollo moon landings, but he also wrote science fiction for magazines and films. The man who has been called the father of modern spaceflight, Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, was inspired by writers like Jules Verne, who wrote scientific adventure novels. Jules Verne made a serious attempt to address the problem of launching a spacecraft that could escape Earth's gravitational pull. He opted to launch his heroes in a moonship from a giant cannon with the crew inside a huge shell. Unfortunately, in reality, the acceleration forces created by Verne's cannon would have completely crushed the crew. The acceleration of real rockets is much lower than the shells from Verne's space cannon. Flights to other planets, new innovative spacecraft will be needed to travel those vast distances in a reasonable amount of time. And once again, science fiction is leading the way. Interplanetary spacecraft powered by solar sails appear in films like Star Wars and Star Trek, but one of the earliest references to this amazing idea was a story by Cordwainer Smith. In the 1950s, he wrote how the first interstellar spaceships might be propelled by light sails. Light sails may sound like sci-fi fantasy, but the international space agencies are finding ways to turn this incredible technology into reality. One of the main reasons to travel to other planets is to set up a permanent base there. And the colonization of other worlds is a common theme in science fiction. From H.G. Wells' First Men in the Moon to Philip K. Dick's Martian stories, writers have speculated at just how this could be achieved. Expanding our presence in the universe is not something to be undertaken lightly, but ESA and the other international space agencies are working on ideas for bases on the Moon and Mars. So just as science fiction led the way 100 years ago, it's inspiring us again as we begin to plan missions to other planets in our solar system.
I love science appeal. I love science appeal.
My name is Corbin Dallas, and I love science appeal, and I was not paid to say this.
Lilu, I love science appeal. Multipass.
I love science.
I love science appeal so much, he don't even know. Yeah. Don't tell him.
We love science appeal. We love science appeal.